Well, hey, welcome back. It's Tiffany with Big View Small Window. Please be sure to check me out on bigviewsmallwindow.com. Comment, like, share, subscribe, and if you are watching me from YouTube, hit the notification bell. Today, we're going to talk about friendships or relationships. Disclaimer, because I have to give those sometimes. I am not an expert in this area. I am actually still learning and growing. My boundaries for relationships, am just now realizing, in the past have been absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm always trying to practice self awareness. And so if I feel like I got a little bit of wisdom that I can impart to someone else, then I'll say something about it. But I would definitely say that if you've got, good relationships in your life already, people with good marriages, you'll make sure that you want to talk to them because I am still single and I'm introverted and I win every argument around here because nobody else lives here. Okay, so now there's there are these layers, if you will, or how do I want to say, these steps to relationships that I have come to understand over time. And so the mental picture, the image I want you to have in your mind is the image of a tree. Okay, so think of a tree. At the top, you've got all of the leaves just blooming, blossoming, lots of leaves, and you've got branches that are holding those leaves in place, all right? And then you've got the trunk of a tree. And sometimes on the trunk of a tree, you might see little branches. I've heard them called sucker branches before because they're not really branches that are good for much. But sometimes there are branches that are lower on the bark of the tree. And then you've got some roots, all right? Some roots are above ground, all right? And then some roots, those roots go the deepest. Those are the roots that are going to help this tree weather a storm. Those are the roots that are going to find water in dry places. Okay, so you've got this mental picture in your mind, right? Okay, so I want you to think of the leaves that are on a tree like acquaintances, all right? So these are people that you meet, grocery stores and just hanging out in a parking lot somewhere after a show or just something along those lines. Even people you meet online are acquaintances, okay? And essentially acquaintances are plentiful, right? So you notice that on a tree, the leaves are the most plentiful part. The other thing to know about leaves is that depending on the type of tree it is, there are no leaves in certain seasons. Okay, so those are your acquaintances. Sometimes they're around, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're fair weathered. Now, for me, what I had to do was I had to get mature and to learn when someone is an acquaintance, I have to be okay with them coming in and out of my life, right? So, because there's sometimes you get these good conversations going with somebody and you just automatically put them in the friend zone and they don't really deserve to be there because the deepest conversation you have with the person is just the first time you talk to them, right? So your leaves are your acquaintances. But when it comes to acquaintances, right, and you treat everybody the same when you first meet them, the type of how do I want to say it? What you want to practice basically is acceptance. So just accept everybody. In the acquaintance phase, you're not really like trying out a whole lot except a conversation. Just your ability to be able to pick up what the other person is putting down and vice versa. So first and always, we practice acceptance. This is your agape love, your unconditional love. All right. Now let's go to the branches of the tree. All right. This is where you get into casual friendships. So there's still lots of branches, not as many as leaves, but casual friendships, there's a little bit of vulnerability. So you're going to go a little bit past acceptance now to affirmation. So when you've got casual friendships, what you want to be cautious of is that you're not looking for approval because casual friendships, those are the people that you kind of want around because they tend to agree with you on things and there's a good vibe there. You've moved past being acquaintances, but you know that kind of what brought you into that friendship is the fact that you agree on a lot of things, which is not a big deal. I'm just saying you're in a situation where there's still very little to no transparency. And so as you develop in this phase where there's a lot of affirmation, just be careful that you are not setting yourself up to where you're only around people who agree with everything you say. That can create an illusion that you are this just sweet, kind, just agreeable person. And I'm just speaking about myself right now. And I know that a lot of people kind of have that impression of me. But if you spend more time around me, you might find out that, I mean, yeah, I'm kind because that's what the Bible says, right? You're supposed to be kind, but I'm not nice. The word nice is not in the Bible. Haven't found it yet. So I am a truth teller. And so when we get into this next phase where I'm just calling this friends, all right? So casual friends and then friends. So friends are going to be the stronger branches that are closer to the bark of the tree as opposed to, the branches that are kind of towards the top. All right. And you notice that sometimes branches towards the top, when they get real heavy, they tend to break. All right. And so that's why I'm saying you got to be careful about those casual friendships. All right. So just regular friendships, this is where you get into a little bit more of like accountability. This is somebody that you not only have something in common with and they agree with you on things, they can actually disagree with you about things. And it's somebody that you'll want around to be like a conscience for you. And so you're still sustaining that acceptance, you're still sustaining that affirmation, but now you've got some accountability. And the kind of love that I wrote down for that one, in addition to agape, is filio or phileo. These are Greek words, okay? And so that's like the brotherly love, the love between friends. And so that begins to develop, and you still just want to draw your cautions where you can, and be mature about what you disclose about yourself with people. So now the next category that I want to talk about is like close friends and best friends. I haven't talked about those sucker branches yet, so just hold on with that. But with the close friends and the best friends, this is where you're going to get into where you actually, feel like you've developed some responsibility for the person, helping them stay on track. If they're working on personal goals, if the person is married, this may be somebody that you counsel or pray with, or, you just spend time with, because you have some intimate things in common. And so I'm addressing this, by the way, just from a friendship and like platonic relationship kind of phase. And marriage is just a whole nother thing. Like I said, I don't know anything about that. And I don't want to know before time because I'm enjoying my life. Okay. But when you get to the best friends and the close friends part, that's where I'm saying responsibility kind of develops. My notes here say something about authority. And I think authority is just kind of like spiritual authority. So if you are speaking into someone's life, something that you feel like you've heard from God, that's not necessarily something you just want to do with everybody. Although it's not as if you can't speak into the life of an acquaintance. If you've got a word, you give it to them and then they can decide what they want to do with it. But I think I'm talking here about sustained conversations and just responsibility toward one another to hold each other accountable. And in that kind of that best friend phase, we're talking now about the roots that are above ground. Those are going to be your close friends. And then the roots that are below ground, those are your best friends. I kind of put those together because they're one and the same, it's connected. But I still feel like if you wanted to take like Jesus for an example, right? So at one point in time, he had 70 disciples, right? He had all these leaves and branches shimmering. But then he started talking this stuff about eating his flesh and drinking his blood, and they thought, well, we are not cannibals. We can't pick up what he's putting down, so we out. So then that left the 12. And then, so the 12 were his friends, right? Well, minus Judas, who was the Jesus kisser, who just kind of kept himself at a distance in the heart. But there was the 12, and those were his friends. But then he had the three, and those were like his close friends. And so I think that's the example that works for me. But what I think is that what's going to help you discern between these different areas of moving in and out of friendships, you're going to have acquaintances, you're going to have casual friends, just that coffee and tea date every once in a while. Then you're going to want to move into friendship and start sharing a little bit more and create accountability with the person. And then you're going to want to get into closer friendships and start taking responsibility and helping this person hit their goals. And then you're going to get into best friends, and you've got those few roots that go down real deep. That's like your ride or die. That person that you can call if you need anything, something's going on. If your light's about to get shut off, they'll give you the $30, $50 you need. So there's that. Okay. In each of those areas, though, self awareness, I think, is the main thing that I want to put out there. Be self aware and practice discernment and the healthy kind of compromises and judgment, between you and this other person, or you and these people that you're friends with. And for me, I haven't always been good about this. So, still learning, still growing. I've just decided to kind of turn over a whole different leaf by the time that I came to Arizona. And so I'm trying to do things differently here, although I have noticed some patterns in myself that have they still need to be worked on. But here's some things that I wanted to go a little bit deeper about, okay? There are these times when there are going to be people that just walk in and out of your life. I know I talked about that with acquaintances, but sometimes that's going to feel like that can happen with friends too, and people that you've invested in. And and I for me, just because I've dealt with issues of like rejection and things like that, I have been known to kind of push people out, and I don't let them get the opportunity to walk away first. So I'm just being real, just being transparent, and it needs work. That's self awareness right there, to know that you need work. I'm not going to be perfect by the time I'm done. I mean, if I'm perfect, I'm dead. I'm in heaven with Jesus, but I'm just going to keep working on it. So here are some things to know about, people coming in and out of your life, and how you can kind of stay free from being offended by this. So, number one, just some notes that I was writing. I said some forms of love, or all forms of love between humans. So, this is not God to us, this is just us to each other. So, some forms of love are conditional. And then you say, okay, well, then what are the conditionals? I love everybody unconditionally, Tiffany. Da, 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 da. Let's just be real. So the conditions that I mean can mean atmosphere, okay, can mean context, it can mean the level of commitment, the level of investment, and then basically just the overall presence of the person, if they are present and available in the relationship. Those are the conditions that I mean. And so what I mean by some forms of love, I don't necessarily mean agape versus phileo and all of those. I guess I just meant the intensity of the love. So maybe forms is not the best word, but I've got it categorized anyway. And so sometimes there's just going to be this intensity of love for friendship and fellowship that you have with a person that's really like in spirit, like in mind. But then there are just going to be those times when we have to acknowledge that the atmosphere of the friendship, if it's not healthy or if it's toxic, then it's going to kind of block you a little bit from being able to love the person to the depth that you want to. If this is two platonic people, male and female, and let's say that they are probably interested in each other in a relationship, well, then I think at that point you would have to decide if you want to go past the phileo into the eros, which is the erotic love, the love between married people. So as you transition between that, that's when you really have to practice awareness of the other person and yourself, and make sure that the level of commitment, the level of investment, the overall presence of the person just being available to you for a relationship, that just needs to be on point. If we're still just looking at our model of a tree, then you need to make sure that you're not holding acquaintances to the same standards that you would hold, somebody that's a part of your root system. The leaves are just basically, they look good and they take a lot of nutrients from the tree. And I'm not a science person, so if you find facts otherwise, you can just let me know. But I don't know how much leaves draw in nutrients to a tree. Perhaps they help in the photosynthesis process or something, but just make no mistake that it's the roots that give the tree life. Okay. All right. So my next kind of point is that all loves are not equal. And so what I mean by that is that there is this love that I've been mentioning called agape, and it permeates everything. That's that self-sacrificing, just always giving, pushing forward, 1 Corinthians 13:8 says that it's that love that never fails, right? And so that's agape love. And so the reason why I say that that love is not equal to everything else is because it is the love that is foundational to everything. It encompasses the phileo, it encompasses the eros, and then of course the storge, which is the love between parents and children. And so it's not equal just for the simple fact that there's going to be a different kind of weight to it. We are called by the Lord to love a stranger. I mean, to the point where, you've got that story of the Good Samaritan, where if you got some clothes off your back, give that person your clothes, pay for their hotel fee if you need to get them off the streets for the night, and feed them a meal. That's agape type of love. And let's just be honest, sometimes even people that you are your relatives and you may be close friends with, those are not necessarily the people that you would always want to give the shirt off your back. So don't think of these as being not equal, as in one being more important than the other. Just that the level of commitment is different in each of those. And so, though all loves are not equal, they are equally important, and we should sincerely care about loving other people. That was my last point. So, I'm going to leave a couple of things in the description box. If it's on YouTube, then it's down below. And then if you're watching from my website, it'll be in one of those areas where I've got just a couple more notes. And if you have any thoughts or questions about relationships, you can just let me know. Now, my last point is this, is the sucker branches. All right. Those little branches that just grow in these odd places on a tree sometimes, and they don't really have any leaves on them. I think you know what I'm talking about. Google them if you don't. What I've heard and what I've known about those types of branches, they add absolutely nothing. They're not even pretty to look at. They don't add any nutrients. All they do basically is they take from the tree and they just grow out in this wild pattern, and they're not sustainable for any kind of weather. Once you figure out that someone is a sucker branch on your tree, break them off immediately. And don't worry about it. You can just pray for them behind their back. I have, I've cycled through quite a few friendships, and anybody that's been friends with me for years knows that, sometimes months will go by before we talk. But I think depending on where we are in the friendship phase, nothing is really lost. We can pick back up where we left off. But what I would prefer is that if we are close friends, and if we do get into the best friends phase, is that I have this love language, and it's called quality time. And I just don't think you can be part of my root system if you don't even have time to call me. So let me just leave you with this. This is Romans 12, 9 through 10, and then verse 18. Kind of spliced it together. It says, don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Love with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. So, there it is. Okay, it's Tiffany, bigviewsmallwindow.com. I have everything you need there. There's an about section. There's even a couple of cute little photos here and there. My blog is there, and I really enjoy writing. So please make sure you read something, like something, recommend something, repost something, and just let me know that you support my writing. And I got a newsletter coming in May, so be on the lookout for that, and just a couple of other things. I'm really enjoying bigviewsmallwindow.com. I hope that you are too. Have a great day.